Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sound Archives. My name is Christian Maiorino, and I am the host of this channel. So it's a sunny Saturday morning here up in Connecticut. Pretty cold outside today, but I figured, hey, why not get another episode recorded? So, as I alluded to in last week's episode, today's episode is going to focus on a um, new series I'm trying to run here. So it's reviews of either a concert video, if you will, or any type of music documentary. So as you see behind me, I got the Rush LPs right here. So today's episode is just going to be a review of the documentary Time Stand Still, which chronicles the final tour that Rush did back in 2015, and this movie came out in 2016. So I actually caught this on the Tubi streaming service, which if anyone hasn't checked it out already, they have a lot of really good concert films on there and music documentaries. A ton of them if you're into um, rock music, hard rock, heavy metal. There's a ton of them on there. So if you're not already, or if you haven't already checked any of these out, definitely go on there. That's kind of why I decided to do this series, because I've already watched a few of these. So again, going back to this one on Rush. So as I said, the film chronicles the basically the last tour that Rush did. And kind of explains their decision at that time. So as the band members were talking, throughout the film, they did the Clockwork Angels album. They did the tour. They thought it was, that went very well. It was a great album, and Neil Peart especially felt that he wanted to do one last tour, but definitely didn't want to continue touring, basically because of his age, and that he felt that his ability to keep playing as a drummer would kind of deteriorate as he went on, and he always wanted to give the fans their best. So he figured, what, we'll do one last tour and then call it a day. So it's a pretty good film overall. They chronicle a lot of their a lot of anecdotes are referred to from like their early days of touring. Just getting in the driving in a station wagon on their first tour, and just having station wagon and the van, and just driving cross country doing shows like that. There's funny anecdotes about them going on tour with other bands, especially Kiss, and there's a whole story with Ace Frehley and all that. And then the film really is kind of a tribute to the Rush fans. I think they show a lot of different things with the fan base. They it covers a whole RushCon thing, this event that's kind of organized by Rush fans that was kind of going on throughout the tour. Baseball player, was it Randy Johnson or Jackson? I have my notes here. What's his name? Yeah, Randy Johnson. I'm sorry, I'm not a baseball. Don't really follow sports too much, but I guess he's a diehard Rush fan. And they show there was a game where he came out. They're going to retire his number. He's in the baseball stadium, and they have this black curtain covering up the R30, a replication of that drum set that they used on that tour. So he unveils it and he sees it, and he's all excited, and he does a little drum fill for the crowd, and so it's pretty cool to see that. Then they feature this other guy, Ray Wozniak. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, but he's a guy who's been collecting Rush memorabilia for since the early 80s, and he has this whole stack of all the items that he has, and it's almost like 100 pages long of just all the different I guess records and memorabilia and whatnot this guy has. He had said back in 1985 he put an ad in Circus magazine, just stating he's a Rush fan and has all these things, and he was, I guess, overwhelmed with the response that he got from that. One of the more emotional things is that they showed a fan in Scotland who had gotten in a very serious car accident. The passenger that was in the car with him died, and he was basically paralyzed from the accident. And when he was kind of in recovery from that, one of the only things he really had was music. And of course, he was listening to Rush, and he was saying, the doctor said I couldn't walk again, but eventually he did start getting feeling back, and then he would start going to the gym or doing physical therapy and whatnot, and he was listening to Rush to get motivated to do that, and eventually he did he's able to walk again. So it's pretty emotional to see that type of story. And then the film ends with kind of going to the very last concert that they did, which was in Los Angeles on that tour. The band's talking about, and the road crew is just kind of, we got to go out, we got to do this last show without getting too emotional or anything, because it's a show, we got to go out there and do it. And they did. So it's it was a great film overall. If anyone out there who's a Rush fan haven't already seen it, definitely check it out. I thought it was, it's informative. There's probably a lot of things in there if you're already a fan of the, a lot of the stories and whatnot that you've already heard about the band. You'll see in there. One more thing, the another thing they touch on in there is their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I guess there was, I don't know if it was the first one or one of them. There was 200 Rush fans out there protesting that they hadn't been inducted yet, and then when they finally got inducted, they show footage from that ceremony, and speaker there is talking about a couple other inductees and whatnot, and when he finally mentions Rush, they definitely got the biggest crowd reaction of all the other inductees there. So it kind of shows how loyal and fanatical that Rush fan base is. And if you think about all the musical left turns that they kind of took over the years and the different directions that they took, especially I would say in the 80s when they were kind of doing those more kind of keyboardy pop type albums, the fan base stuck with them throughout that. So they're a band that's been able to kind of do what they want, and the fans have always stuck with them. And the film really kind of as I was saying before, really is kind of a tribute to the Rush fans more than anything else. So I enjoyed watching it. I do highly recommend it. Another thing that I liked about it is that they show there's clips of old concert footage and then plus footage from that tour. There's one point where they show Red Barchetta, where they they don't play the whole song, but they kind of cut back and forth between that last tour, between the like the early 80s concert, wherever that came from, and then a couple, maybe one or two other live footage concerts over the years. So it was pretty cool to see that. And I think now it's almost more emotional watching it now, knowing that Neil Peart, he's passed away 2 years ago in 2020. So seeing this now, it's like it really was the last tour. There's really nothing else Rush that we're going to see. Will Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson do something else together? Who knows? It's yet to be seen. I think a lot of Rush fans would like to see it, but if they get together and do something, I don't think you can really call it Rush. One of the things they touched on in the film when Neil decided they didn't want to do it, that he didn't want to continue touring anymore. They were just kind of in agreement, and they didn't want to try to find a replacement drummer. You think about it, they had pretty much that same lineup for almost 4 decades, with the exception of the first album. So, they say, it's not something that we're going to do. So, but, if they do something together, it'll be great to see. So, anyway, that's my review of the Time Stand Still. So, if it's something you like, leave your comments below, what you thought about it, what you think of this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. So next week's episode, what I plan on doing is just kind of going back and kind of doing a review of the different album reviews that I did last year in 2021, and just kind of go through those and see if I still, do I still like the albums that I reviewed as much last year today, and then maybe touch on a couple new releases from 2021 that I didn't get to reviewing on the channel last year, and just kind of maybe quickly going through those and giving my thoughts on those. So anyway, that's what's coming up. And, again, this is the Sound Archive sounding off, and hope to see you next time.